So we got one slide here, but I feel like this could be a podcast instead. So there are data lakes and cloud data warehouses. And why would a company need both? Is there any advantage to using both of those? Does one have an advantage over the other? I'm only going to cover that a little bit here. I've come to the realization that I feel like there's place for data lakes and there's a place for a cloud data warehouse. So data lake the original idea was, because of the lowering cost of cloud storage, that you could finally afford to take all your data, no matter where it was, in all its varied formats, and put it into a single place where the company could see its data assets. Now, in some cases that turned into a data swamp because you didn't keep good track of what was there. But in a lot of cases, it finally gave people access to the data that they had been locked down before. And so one of the interesting things about data lakes is that you can store regular rectangular data, because most of the world has moved to relational databases, or document store, or you could do binaries, right? So things that didn't work in other kinds of data stores work great in a data, or can be saved easily in a data lake. You want to put all your customer call recordings in a highly locked down vault where you can get access to it when they claim they never said something or authorized something or they treated somebody poorly. Then you can store that in a data lake, right? Whereas it didn't fit very well in a database. And then on the other hand, you have a data warehouse, which really carries over from data warehouses on-prem. And the basic idea behind a data warehouse is it is a SQL store, a place to get access to massive amounts of data using SQL, and that somehow that thing will optimize the queries and do other things so that even though your data is very large, you can still run SQL access against it. So and there's probably other definitions for data warehouse, but for me, it's pretty much SQL against everything else. And SQL only runs against certain kinds of data. And so if your data doesn't fit into that mold where SQL runs well against it, then a warehouse might not be a good idea. So let's talk pretty quick here about what Joe thinks some of the best use cases are, the reasons you would put data in a data lake or in a data warehouse. I actually like both. The last two places I've worked, we're building both. And because it turned out we had different use cases for the same data, so the same data would appear in two places. And you still have all the same compliance and controls and data protection, data stewardship that you would have had before. So in this case, you just have two copies of it, or N, depending on how you do your materialized views. So for a data lake, all data, all types, all formats, everything's allowed. And it's primarily usually was destined for machine consumption. It is not super quick. You don't put it in the middle of your OLTP, your online transaction processing. You basically set it up so that machines, applications can go against that data, or you can run open source big data tools. I might be a Spark user, Spark Shell user, and I want to run some massively parallel query against a couple of huge data sets and petabytes, well, or hundreds of megabytes, hundreds of gigabytes, hundreds of terabytes. A lot of data. And so the data lake is great for that. There's a bunch of tools out there that let you write programs that run on massive scale and against any kind of data. And another area that's become huge for data lakes is, and really kind of one of the main drivers has been machine learning. So feature engineering. Feature engineering is the preparation of data for machine learning. And so if you have a lot of data and you're not sure, you need to massage it, you need to work it into a shape where it can be fed to a machine model. Data Lake's been great for that. And the last one I threw in is just, you can tell personal experience. In my case, it's data set reconstruction. If I need to reconstruct what a data set looked like over time, I can write data to a data lake without worry about the cost. I can keep everything ever done to that database, and then I could replay that to rebuild that data set. And maybe we had some bug and we want to replay it. So a data lake is pretty amazing for these machine kind of operations, and data reset reconstruction is actually one I've used a couple of times. We wanted to put all our streaming data in there and then we could get back to it. Without the cloud, without a data lake, we never would have been able to do that. And for data lake, I'm including pretty much blob store that's under the lake control. For the data warehouse side, it's pretty much square data. They support document data, and some of them do it as first-class citizens, but really SQL doesn't work very well against that, and so you have kind of this funky thing to make happen. So data warehouse, primary consumer in a lot of cases is human analytics and reporting. We need to run reports on a regular basis. We're going to build those with SQL. How do we make that happen? Oh, if we had a data warehouse, we could make that happen. You could do it with SQL on a data lake. Some places will do that with like a Presto on a data lake. But the reality is if you have a data warehouse, it's a lot easier to do. You want to create a materialized view and have that thing updated in a warehouse. That's pretty much a good place for that. Another use you'll see for data warehouses is collaboration spaces. Users in two different users on the same team or across teams are trying to build up a new set of data, a new data set, combined data set, or they're trying to work together. Data warehouses are treated like a regular database, but on massive scale. And so for collaboration, in some ways they're easier to use. The only thing I would say is, and they're, because of SQL, human data sharing, collaboration spaces, human analytics, those all overlap each other. They're optimized in a lot of ways, as I said, for square data. So if you're going to do call recordings and you need to do metadata on call recordings, then it may or may not make sense because the call recordings themselves probably won't go in the data warehouse for a lot of them. So that's it. Really, your specific use case will drive the best data location. Should it be in a data lake? Are the access patterns in the data lake better than for you for this use case than they are than a data warehouse would be? Is SQL or is some other kinds of query better? And I realize you can do Spark SQL. I just meant basically doing SQL exploration. A data warehouse is really aimed at that. And then you've got access methods. Do we need to compute right next to the storage? If we're going to do things, work on data that's in a data warehouse, if we can do it in the query, we can make use of the like Snowflake's compute. But if it turns out we can't make that happen in that SQL, then maybe a data lake data set would be better for that. A lot of places will load their data in both. There's another couple talks I've done. You could be a lake first shop. You could be a data warehouse first shop. You could be a data goes both places first. Yeah, the only thing is, like I said, because of binary and other data, in a lot of ways, you're going to have a partial data lake anyway. The debate is whether everything goes in that data lake or whether all the stuff that works well in a data warehouse goes in the data warehouse. Access controls and compliance are hard in both places. You make massive data sets, you make materialized views, which in the data lake would be new data sets copied and merged from old ones. That kind of access control and compliance is always going to be difficult. So I hope this helps. If not, tell me what the detail part of this or where you need to go with this and we can talk about it. So that's it. Why you may end up using both data lakes and cloud data warehouses. Have a great day.